We're going to plow ahead. Thank you for being here today.
Morning, Neil.
Good morning. Let me get situated and we'll be ready to go. All right. Who wants to start us out with some gratitudes today?
I will. I spent last night painting pumpkins with my sister and her husband and a couple of neighbors. And it was just relaxing and fun and enjoyable to be sitting down and doing something like that with family.
Yeah, Pat, can you pull your camera down just a hair? I'm seeing all I'm seeing was your forehead and this in the wall. Awesome.
That might be a good thing.
Well, as long as you're not in your PJs still, that's okay. Well, that's good. For those of you, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but it's probably worth mentioning again. If any of you do like little pop buys, like just like take your past clients, customers, a little something. And I don't know if this is what Pat's doing with her pumpkins or not, but I saw at Kroger where you can buy the little pumpkins for like $1. They are 10 for $1, and that might be something, just a little something you could, throw a little tag on and take 10 or 20 of those to people and just drop them off, visit with them at a distance. All right, who's got some more gratitudes?
I'm grateful I am on vacation and can still work from where I'm at. So you get fun time and downtime at the same time.
Nice. Well, where are you on vacation?
In Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, well, you should have done this from the beach. We could have seen the beach instead of the hotel or condo wall. Yeah, we could have had the beach background. So that's awesome.
I'll take it. I'll take you guys out there before I hang up. I got
okay, good.
From my room.
Sweet, nice. Well, I'm
grateful.
Go ahead.
I'm thankful that I made it to Florida as well to do the same thing as Michelle. I am in West Palm Beach, so yeah. we're kind of close if we have to, team back up and get back to Memphis.
Yeah, and Rico, you have an equally bad view. I see no beach or nothing. Maybe it's out the window.
No beach and nothing. Not yet.
All right. We're good. We got Crye-Leike had a nice play in the Daily Memphian today. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I know not everybody on the call, we're from all over, but we got some nice results from some PR opportunities. So if you've got good results in your area, we talked last week about doing some 8x8s. Media people are some good people to do that with. All right, any other gratitudes?
Well, I am grateful to be back from a vacation, and I was in the mountains of Colorado riding a side-by-side.
Nice.
And I'm thankful I had a safe trip.
Comment. I'm happy to take those as we go, but we're going to do a little review from last week. We talked about auto flow and that the ideal situation is if you can do 3 a month. Now, I know for some people that's a lot, but it doesn't all have to be something that you just mail. It could be calls, it could be emails, it could be reaching out to them on social media. It could be a lot of different things, but that you're planning in advance to do something 3 times a month. So has anybody got, just as a refresher from the people that maybe weren't here last week, anybody that is doing 3 times a month scheduled? This is your chance to brag a little on your own planning.
I'm not doing 3, but try at least once a month to reach out to all of my clients.
Well, once is better than none.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't want to overwhelm them. 3 times a month is just sending, to everybody. So I just try to hit at least once a month.
Right.
And it pays off, okay? Because I just had a client 3 years ago that just responded back.
Excellent.
Neil, I do the post. Well, it's not the postcards. I call it the Reader's Digest version of mailing. I've done that for about 5 years now. I get a large portion of my business from that. I do that. I'm utilizing Moxie, so that with Moxie, it sends a monthly zip code or neighborhood, however you've got it, to them on their information. And then anytime you've got listings, sales, it sends that to them as well. And I'm sort of a note writing fiend. So
Nice.
everybody in my sphere gets contacted. And then you've got the e-cards. So everybody in my sphere gets contacted a minimum of 3 times a month, but it's totally different information going to them.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. So if you're not able to do quite 3 a month yet, or you're not wanting to do that, keep in mind the system override. And who can remember what these are in order of preference from, or in order of importance, maybe I should say, from the top left to the bottom right. Hopefully the little symbols there will give you a clue.
Phone call first or verbal communication.
Yep, but that's phone calls over here. That would be these guys over here is,
Oh, having a
In
meeting.
person.
yeah,
Having a
face to face, in
face-to-face.
person, right? That's the most effective. And then we've got a voice, which is a call, and then text message. And then we're back to personal notes, email, and then advertising. And question, we had a little discussion last week of where does social media fit in here? And in the book, he has it by email. And I would say that depends a little bit. And again, that depends on whether, are you just giving somebody a thumbs up, or are you really engaging with them out of their social media? So I think it could be, that one could be, a little bit different depending on where it is. All right. Anybody remember the daily habits versus the weekly habits? Anybody want to chime in on these? It's the Ninja 9. There's some that are daily and some that are weekly.
Gratitude.
Yeah.
Thank you, Valerie.
Show up, stay on agenda.
Boom. Thank you, Jody.
Focus on the hot list.
It's on down there, but it's there. Thank you, Danny. Yeah, so those are the daily things that we can work on. And again, Danny, what's the difference between the hot list and a warm list?
Hot list, I'm ready to move on, get it to close. My warm list is the potential upcoming listings for sale.
So think about hot list, next 60 days or less. And warm list would be maybe the next 12 months or less.
Yeah.
Great. And then the weekly habits are our customer service calls, real estate reviews, which we're going to talk about today. 50 live interviews. Again, those don't need to all be actually live, but these are things that may happen during your week. And then your
Update
your database. All right. So we're going into first part of this week, and we're going to talk about just different types of customer service calls. And you see some of these listed here. It's not just maybe things that are your actual current customers, but those would certainly be at the top of the list that you need to do. And I would encourage you to try to do that on a set scheduled time every week. And probably, depending on what the situation is, you might want to make that, a little bit later in the week so people don't have to think about it all weekend. It would be nice if you touch base with them, say Thursday or Friday, and then that way they don't have to be concerned over a weekend. But we want to call them before they call us. And then some of these other ideas in here could kind of be a little bit of a bleed over between customer service calls and 50 live interviews, because we've got other things in here like the 8x8. And somebody remind remind me what the 8x8 system is. You don't have to remember each and every step, but just what's the general idea of an 8x8. How about it, Beverly? 8x8.
Is it
Yeah,
about,
I read it. I don't remember it right now. Wait a minute.
That's okay. That's why we go over these things.
is it about rebranding yourself or something? But your database and,
It was one of the items on an 8x8 was that you could, if you wanted to rebrand yourself, you could. But the simple idea is we're going to add people to our database, right? So this
Okay.
might be somebody that maybe I know them by name, but I don't really know them. I was actually thinking about this on the drive in this morning, that I've got several media contacts in print and digital, but I really don't have many in television. And I was thinking on the way in this morning, I need to do some 8x8s of some people that are television reporters, so that when I want to try to get coverage for the company on something, that I can just pick up the phone and call them, and those people will know who I am. So that might be an example. But rebranding was absolutely one of the other items on an 8x8. Tickets and giveaways. Does anybody do this? Because this is an interesting idea. I know some people do tickets and or giveaways, but is anybody doing that as part of their regular business plan, or something that you're doing to stay in touch with your sphere? And when I say tickets and giveaways, it might be like you're buying tickets to a local plays or other things, and then you're calling your customers and giving them away. Anybody doing that?
Neil, I have a question. I feel like that's kind of tough right now with current restrictions in life and people not really wanting to go out. So what would be other ways to do that without?
Well, I
it
know
doesn't-
there's, and I think it's going to depend on what's going on in your area, but I'll just give you an example of something that's going on in Memphis. Germantown, which is one of our suburbs, just opened up an outdoor venue, and they are having things at this outdoor venue that are socially distanced, and it's brand new. That might be a great thing that you could give somebody right now. I know right now is maybe a little bit tougher, but maybe it's, hey, maybe it's something you're doing to support a local restaurant in your area, and you do a giveaway on your Facebook page, something like that. I mean, something that maybe it's a takeout deal that they could do that if they weren't comfortable actually going somewhere right now. I thank you for bringing that up, Michelle, because that's, it's probably tougher now, but I know in the past, I have worked for people who, had some tickets to some great sporting events tickets. Interestingly enough, and this is a strategy in some people's mind. Now, you may or may not like this, that some people will actually intentionally wait until kind of late in the game to start making those calls. And so, if I had tickets to an NBA game and the game was tonight, that I might actually wait until this morning to start making those calls, because chances are some of those people aren't going to be able to go make more calls. Now, some of you may like that, some of you may not like it. I get it, but that's some ideas of tickets and giveaways. Anybody else doing anything on that?
I've done that, Neil. And this is a while back, I used to have season tickets to Bartlett Performing Arts Center with a friend. And if the friend couldn't go, I'd have one ticket left, and I'd call up people that I knew were either single or maybe like to get away from their spouse, and invite them to go with me. And it was like a last minute thing. And, that way they didn't feel insulted that I waited till the last minute to call them. Because sometimes it's like, oh, how many people did you call? It's like 4:00 on Friday and the place tonight. But they always appreciated it. Almost nobody ever was able to go with me. So I got to call a whole lot of people before I finally found a winner.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point, is that sometimes it it may benefit you to actually procrastinate a little bit on that, but some people actually make that a strategy. But, most people, I mean, who's going to get insulted? Not many people are going to get insulted that you offered them a ticket to something. Okay. Unless you're scalping it to them, which I don't think was the case what Pat was doing. And then we're going to talk about real estate reviews. We're going to talk about the day, and then you're just basic thank you, congrats, thinking of you. Again, those are great items. Those items on number 8 are great items to look at online, right? On some social media channel, and take it offline. Either send them a note or a card or something like that, and take it offline and actually mail it to them. Okay, the 5-step calling process. I know this may sound a little basic, but on this customer service calls, again, Larry is recommending that you do this on the phone. And I know this may depend on your customer, but even the younger customers are saying they prefer to be called during a real estate transaction. But that you're just going to start out with something like, hey, Pat, it's good to talk to you. And then I'm going to hit some kind of a forward there. Maybe it's something I know about her family, her occupation. Occupation's probably on certain people's minds a lot more these days than others. I'm going to hit the purpose of my call real quick. I'm going to hit them again with some forward, and then I'm going to be off the call. So it's a very short type process, that it's not going to be a long drawn out call. I know some people on here are going to say I can't get on the phone and only be on there 2 minutes with anybody, but you can. And then if they decide they want to stretch it out some, then that's fine. It's kind of, think of it like instead of anybody know what a compliment sandwich is? Compliment sandwich. Anybody ever heard of that?
Thought you give a,
Go ahead, Jody.
is that a compliment, what am I trying to say? Something to do, and then you put a compliment on the end, so you go in nice.
It's exactly right. So when you're trying to give somebody constructive feedback,
Yes.
you might hit them with a compliment, and then you hit them with their little constructive feedback, and then you hit them with another compliment. I call that a compliment sandwich. It's kind of the same thing here, but we're just hitting, we're going to forward them on the beginning and on the end, and then in the middle, we'll tell them why we called. So it's, maybe it's if it's a current customer, hey, they did the appraisal this week, but I don't have the results back yet. So I just want to let you know, I'm checking on it, I'm on top of it, but I didn't receive it back yet. By the way, what plans do y'all have for the weekend? It's like that. So I'm just hitting forward, hitting purpose of my call, forward again, boom, I'm on and off the call in a short period of time. All right, so just curious, for your current customers, which of these 3 are you using the most?
It's different for each customer.
Okay, based on what, Mark?
Their personal preference.
And you go over that with them at the beginning when you start working with them?
Yes.
Okay, good. What else?
Sometimes I feel like stuff gets lost in translation via text. So usually I will send a text and then follow up with a phone call a bit later if I hear nothing back from them, or if they have, I kind of feel like 3 texts and it's a phone call. Like after 3, there's a conversation that's going to have to take place that can't continue to take place via text.
Good point. I'm just curious, and maybe you can throw it in the chat box if you've had this happen, but I have on more than one occasion, how many of you have had text bite you in the butt?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else up there? I had one time when I was, and it's just a mental lapse, negotiating a contract or an offer rather with somebody, and I was communicating part of the other person's response over text, and I got the amount incorrect. And this was an interesting customer that I was actually filling in for one of my agents. So it wasn't even my customer. It was one of my agent's customers.
Oh,
wow. And it was like, let's just make the numbers up, but it was like, they came back at, instead of 450, it was actually like 470. It was like $20,000 or $30,000 difference. And then, they expected the company to make up the difference on this amount. It was kind of crazy. And I caught it within 2 minutes, and then I tried to call them, and of course they didn't answer, but anyway. And then, go ahead.
I had a situation one time where I was working with an agent, and she kept forwarding threads, emails. She liked to communicate through email. And I guess for the documentation, that was fine. But she forwarded a thread, and I went back on it. She was presenting her seller as this sweet little widow. And man, when I look back on the thread, this lady was mean and vicious. And she forwarded the conversation that it was a mistake. It had to have been the conversation between the seller and the agent and her agent. And it was telling. It was shocking. And
it's at that point, it may very well be your duty to share that with your client and let them know what's going on. But there is a lot of different ways you can get messed up by forwarding emails. And so just be very, very careful around that. And the same thing with text. Sometimes you can inadvertently text the wrong person. Done that too. But, it was brought up earlier. You get zero intonation or sometimes you get the wrong meaning out of a text. I had an agent that got raked over the coals because she had simply said, "Excuse me," in a text, and the person took it as like an insulting "excuse me" instead of just "excuse me, I messed up" or something, like that. And so pick up the phone and talk to people as much as you can. In fact, in the book, Larry says that even the millennials, 87% of them prefer to have those conversations on the phone when they're in a real estate transaction. And so these are some of the other. Yes.
Hey, Debbie, there's one thing that I've done. I've tried to make a habit of, because I do like to use the phone because you can, it's just, for me, it's just a better way of communicating. But I always try to follow it up with an email because some people get amnesia, about a phone conversation. So I will make the call and whatever we discussed, or if we made any decisions about a transaction, I always follow it up with the email. Enjoyed talking to you. I just want to confirm our conversation. And that way there's no, when we get down the road, if there's an issue, there's, they don't forget selective memory, so.
Great point. So especially if it has something to do with the,
I think it's also good, like when you're talking to somebody, say you're talking to the husband, so then you can follow up with an email to both parties, to the husband and the wife, just summarizing. So you keep them on the same page. Sometimes the husband and wife, don't communicate well.
True.
That is true. So there are certain cases where you might want to have an email trail. Let's say you're dealing with a couple who's going through a divorce. Now, it's interesting. I've had folks who they're almost demanding, whenever you have a conversation with one spouse, we're just gonna get the other spouse on the phone so that we are talking to both people at the same time. There may be certain instances where one of those is going to override the other, but the fact about using the phone is it can be a lot faster because most of us can talk much faster than we can type, and probably on a phone. But maybe if you're quick on the thumbs, maybe that's not the case. But one of the key things is just number 4. It allows us a chance, because people, when they're in a real estate transaction, they're thinking about real estate an incredible amount, and they may be more open to hearing that from other friends, coworkers, other people. So try to use
I got two things I want to mention
Sure.
on the subject. I never forward an email to somebody else as a result because of the conditions that you mentioned. But what I do, if there's something in there that I want my client to see, I just cut and paste it into another email so only he can see what it is that I put in there.
Good idea. I like that, Mark.
The other thing I have is, have you ever had somebody, you ask them if they got your email and they say no? I have a program that I use called Read Notify. And when you send it and use this program, it'll tell you if they opened it or not. So if they tell you they didn't, and you get notification back that they did, you know that they're telling you a story.
Yeah, you can do that in Outlook too. I think there's a read receipt. You don't have to pay anything for it.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, there may be certain instances where I use that, but I don't know that I'll use it necessarily every time. But if you had one of these customers that, you see an issue with, or an issue comes up, then you may want to start doing that with everybody. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about real estate reviews. Anybody on the call doing real estate reviews as part of their business?
Michelle Marquez, Crye-Leike Realtors.
Do you mean during the sale process? Yes.
Well, not necessarily during the sale process, but as a way of reaching out to your past customers and or your database.
I've never done that before. I've never even thought of it, to be honest, but I think it would be so effective.
So it's interesting, if you read this in the chapter, they from time to time go back and talk to the different people that are in the group that are the original ninjas. And they said, if you could take away everything else and you could just do one thing, this is what they said that they would do, is a real estate review. And so this is, think of it, and don't overcomplicate this, okay? It can be as simple as, Beverly, I just wanted to give you an update of what was happening with real estate in your area over the last, and you're going to fill in the blank here, whether it's 6 months or 12 months. And that's going to be based on how active things are in their area. So I would say your default would be a year, but if it's in an area that's kind of maybe it's a little bit larger geographically and it's very active, then maybe you dial it down to 6 months or even 3 months. Okay, but we're just going to talk about those things today. Again, we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to go in there thinking we're listing their house. If we actually get a chance to meet with them, whether it's at their house or whether it's, grabbing coffee, something somewhere. You're going to do that in person if possible, and then your options would be to mail it. Lastly, to email it. I know that may sound a little counterintuitive to some of you or cumbersome, but that's probably the best ways. And then you're going to run this report before you make the call to try to meet with them. Now, why would that be important?
So you're prepared?
Absolutely. Why else?
So that you seem like you're the real estate professional that you say you are.
These are all correct answers. If you, there's two reasons on this mainly. One, because of the reasons y'all mentioned, you want to seem prepared. If a house on their street just went on the market or just sold, wouldn't it be good if you knew that before you called the people, right? So you're going to seem a lot more in touch with what's going on in their neighborhood if you'll take just a few seconds to run the report. The next item is when I have run through people making these calls or practicing making calls on telling them what they're going to do with this real estate review, many people stumble over telling them what it is they're actually going to do, right? So if Pat was going to do this, and I have to tell Pat what it is I'm going to provide, and then I'm just trying to figure out what it is, it's a lot harder for me to say it than if I'm looking at the report and I have it in my hands. I can talk to her much easier. I've already done it. So in case she says, "Oh, Neil, I don't want you to go to all that trouble." Pat, it's no trouble. I've actually already run the report. I'm sitting here looking at it. I just want to get a chance to get it in front of you. Okay. So that just, it will make those calls easier. And when you call them, you'll be more up to date. And best times to do this, we're going right into those November, December, January. So it's a great time to do it. Anybody know what the significance of this right here is? Whose race car number is that? One of the guys on the call might know this, or one of the ladies that's a NASCAR fan. I see we obviously have no NASCAR fans on the call.
Is it Dale Earnhardt?
No, he was 8.
That is,
Who?
yeah, it is not him. I think old
Petty?
school here. Petty.
Petty?
Richard Petty.
Yes, thank you, Richard Petty. That was his number. So the reason, and I know you guys read this, so you know the answer to this. 43% of real estate reviews wind up with some type of business. I don't, and this is numbers that they've studied and shared. Okay, so and tracked. So if somebody else on the call has something better than that, then please share it with us. But there's almost nothing better you can do than a real estate review.
Hey, Neil.
Yes.
Okay, question. When I was reading this in the book, I immediately thought, okay, they said number one, try to meet in person. Who do you meet in person? The husband, the wife, you ask for them together? They said to like meet for breakfast, lunch, or coffee.
I think with most of us, I probably there's most of those past clients, you may have a better relationship with one versus the other, but there may be some that are equal. So, if possible, if you're comfortable with it and they're comfortable with it, maybe you could go do this in their home. I know now may not the best time to this, but there are certainly some people who are fine with that. I get it. If you're not, then you could simply drop it off to them. You might drop it off to them and talk from a distance, or maybe if you know these people well, you could sit out on the back porch. There's lots of different ways you could do this, but so Beverly, I would say if it's a couple and you're kind of equal with both of them, maybe it's something where it turns into a social thing, but it could be a little bit of both.
Okay. Also, it said that some people use the charts and graphs from Focus First, I think.
Focus First, and we're going to cover Focus First in some later chapters. And I actually do have that software, and I'll pull up some things. I've actually got one of the things off of Focus First on our slides today, but I'll cover that. It's a software that actually was started by the husband of one of the agents that works at the group in Fort Collins, and it's a software that you can use for, I think it's about $20 a month, but I'll cover it in some later sessions and just, you can see it. And if you want some more detailed explanations, I'll be glad to get on a Zoom with somebody and kind of show it to you before, if you're interested in it. So I'm going to show, this is a CMA summary report. This is out of Paragon. I know not all the people on the call are going to be using and familiar with Paragon, but all of your MLSs probably have something similar to this. This is a simple one-line type of a summary of all the real estate activity, and this one is by neighborhood in the last 12 months. So there's a few things here. did anybody else that may have, I don't know if any of you on the call attended a Ninja installation. Has anybody that's done that when you had to do the CMAs on the information they provided, was there any insight that you picked up? All right, I'll tell you what it was for me if we don't have anybody. The point of it was, for me, was that we look at our MLS reports every single day, and we just get used to seeing it. When you even look at an MLS report from another MLS, it can be confusing until you kind of figure it out. And the thing that kind of hit me in the head like a hammer was, many times we show our clients and customers and prospective customers MLS sheets like they ought to immediately know every single little thing on there. Well, if you look at this report here, they may or may not know what days on market is, or what LP is, list price, or what does inspection contingency mean. So think about trying to use less or fewer MLS sheets that you're kind of pushing in front of your clients and customers. But also, if I was going to take this report, I might take the time to write in some of these things like list price per square foot, or sold price per square foot, or days on market, et cetera, et cetera. So, but keep it simple. And when I like to do these real estate reviews, I want to try to get to about somewhere between 15 and 25 results. So if I'm in a neighborhood, in a suburb, I'll actually use in the search criteria the subdivision name. If you get into an area, a more urban area where say it was an area that was built in the 40s and 50s, and subdivisions just kind of blend together, you might think about doing a radius type search. So you're just going to say, hey, this is all the real estate activity within half a mile of you in the last 12 months. Now, in some areas, just keep in mind that you may have high price homes right next to lower price homes, and you just may need to either adjust for that, or just make sure that hopefully they're going to be aware of that if that's where they're living. But one other little thing, and I did not do it on this report when I pulled it, is if you can sort by street address, it will alphabetize those streets, because people, as they tend to know their neighborhoods, if there's a lot on the report, it makes it easier to sort by streets. People tend to know their streets that are right by their homes. Any other comments on this report or other reports that you might use for anybody that's done real estate reviews? All right. All right, this is a chart. This one's actually out of focus first, but where the information is coming from is FHFA. So you might want to write that down, FHFA.gov, and go check out these appreciation charts. They've got them for most areas in our footprint. If you're in a more rural area, it may be a state chart. So it may just depend on what you have, but interesting. You can see in this for 2020, this is going to lag a little bit. So this is just got second quarter on here so far. So these lag a little bit, but you can just see the last several years, and this one is for Memphis. But like I said, most metro areas have that on that website that you can pick up. Now, there's other things that you could use. You could certainly use some of the reports out of some of our tools like BuySide. There's other things that you could do, but my point is, I would rather you try to do more of these and keep it really simple. And then if the people have any interest at all, you could simply say, well, Beverly, I didn't really come to talk to you about listing your house, but if you're interested in me coming back and running a full CMA and sharing it with you, I'm happy to do that. But again, It's not going to try to be a disguised listing appointment. All right, some good questions that you might think about for a real estate review. What are your long-term plans? If you could live anywhere, where would it be? Ask them an open-ended question about that, something like, tell me more about that. And then talking about the interest rates and where they are today, and thinking about, that ninja interest rate rule of thumb, the 1%, 10% rule. Anybody want to tell me what that is? How about it? Doug, Jack? I want you to know this one. Jan, anybody?
Something about if you can't save at least 1% on your interest rate, or you're not staying 10 years, it's not worth it. I don't know if I'm close.
Wasn't quite the answer I was thinking about, but it might be true.
Tell us the answer.
So, write this down. 1%, 10% rule of thumb. For every 1% that your interest rates change, it changes your buying power by 10%. So how could you use that in a conversation today with somebody based on what the interest rates are?
You can show them how much more they can buy.
Absolutely. So let's just say I've got somebody who's, they're on the fence about that, or we're talking about interest rates come up in a conversation. In any conversation, you might think about using this, because let's just say, for example, Beverly, you're asking me about that. Well, it's really interesting that you brought that up, because rates, it's crazy how low they are right now. I mean, when you're talking about getting a 30-year loan for less than 3% for people with, with good credit, it's just incredibly low. And did you know that 1%, 10% rule of thumb, and it's this: for every 1% the rates change, your buying power is going to go up or down 10% based on how that is. So let's pretend today that we're looking at a $300,000 house. If rates go up, if they go up 1%, then my buying power is reduced by $30,000. Okay, for the same amount of money. So it's just something to think about. And I think that's why you're seeing in the specifically that kind of mid to upper end of the price point, the people that have job security right now are making moves, because they realize that there's never probably going to be a chance in their lifetime that they're going to borrow money this inexpensively. So the 1%, 10% rule of thumb. And then lastly, if you have people that are doing investments, or maybe even thinking about doing investments, is real estate part of your wealth plan? So those are 4 questions that you could ask. I'm gonna put this in homework for next week. I want everybody on the call to do one real estate review before next week. If you have Paragon and you need help in running that from a MLS standpoint, call me, reach out to me. I can walk you through how to do that very easily. Take about 5 minutes. So next we get into that 50 live interviews. Again, many of these are conversations that you're already having, so just working them in to your regular routine. Could be something as simple as wearing your name badge to start a conversation, or in general things that you're doing throughout the week in your regular plans, whether it's going to a gym or a club or activity or something like that that you're involved in, that you're going to have real estate conversations. And last item on the Ninja 9, update your database weekly. So these are things you're going to do: update, add, print that thing out, make sure you got it backed up. I think it's interesting if you have your book handy. I think this is so important. Does anybody have their book handy that can actually give us some highlights out of page 148? If not, I do have one handy and I can do that.
I have my book. What are you talking about on Page 148.
Page 148, the top where it says a survey. Can you just read that quick paragraph there?
Mine doesn't have a survey of 20,000 realtors.
Yes, that one.
All right. It showed that fewer than 40% had any kind of database. Even scraps of paper and business cards in a shoebox counted. Yet 60% had nothing. The 40% with at least some semblance of a database earned 251% more income than the 60% without a database. Your database is your most important business asset and is the central nervous system of your business. If you don't have a database, you are not serious about this career. You're a hobbyist.
Ouch. So 60% of the realtors don't have any database. Another homework assignment is to, if you don't have one in writing or on your computer, then I want you to start that this week. And I want you to print that bad boy out so you can share it with us next week. We'll just hold them up to the cameras and show each other. But I want you to have that. It's critical that you have it. It's something that with our marketing department, they can make that happen for you. And it's easy to, I update mine every month and send them a new list and they check it. And it's just, you need to do it. You need to commit to do it. And if you've got a buddy on the call and they don't have one, then you need to stay on them until they do. All right, this question that comes up a lot, how's the market? And so Larry shares two of the things that you typically do not want to say, and that is you're too busy and there's no inventory. We have a lot of great news to talk about in the real estate business right now because fortunately the business in most of our markets is up. And up substantially in many of our markets. So there's great news right now, but how are you answering the question to how's the market? And Jody texts that she's terrible at answering this question. That is awesome because that is going to be our breakout group today is you're going to talk about how's the market and what is your response. So I'm going to throw us into some groups real quick for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to try to put maybe 3 people in there or so, 3 or 4. I'm going to create 10 groups, and we'll do that. And I'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
Hey, Neil. Someone in our group, Keith, I believe it was, said that the best answer is just when they ask how's the market, just say unbelievable, and that will cover all aspects of the market. Your low interest rate, your high sales price.
Unbelievable covers it all. That's right.
That's good, bad, and ugly.
Yep. All right, what else?
Well, I'd like to share what Danny shared with me. This is Beulah. And he said that it's a good idea to just put it back on the person that's asking the question. Well, how's things in your neighborhood? What does it look like? Or how's it selling in your neighborhood? Have you seen anything sold? So that kind of starts a conversation. So I like that. I really like that.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
You might think about asking them a question, like she said there, ask them a question back. You might ask them, as Larry suggests in the book, what specific part of the market are you looking at, Jack? Something like that, so that I know, are these folks, when they think real estate, are they thinking land?
Yeah.
Or are they thinking commercial? Or are they thinking they want to buy an investment property? Or they're thinking about selling their personal house? I have no idea unless I ask. So what specific part of the market are you interested in? Will help you get, some kind of direction going. What else? Who else had some good answers out of this? Surely somebody came up with an answer that they said, I'm going to use that this week.
I liked what you said, that you contributed about the interest rate, pointing out to them how much more they can buy right now, or how that's going to affect what they can buy.
Yeah, I joined their group, and I just mentioned that you might think about adding that 1%, 10% rule of thumb when you're talking about the market and how incredibly, on one hand, it's competitive. On the other hand, we're likely seeing the best interest rates of most of our lifetimes. And if interest rates go up 2%, that's going to affect your buying power negatively by 20%. So, it's certainly in the realm of possibilities that within just who knows what the number is, 2 years, 3 years, that rates could be back up at 4 or 5%. Many of you on this call have bought a house at well more than what rates are right now. Some of you have bought houses at 3 and 4 times what the rates are right now. One of the other things that when you start talking about, what specific part of the market, this is something that I would encourage you to look up in your area. And these are some numbers I ran on Friday. So this is fresh data, and this is for the greater Memphis area, just county-wide. And just look at what these are. So these are number of sales. So part of this is market absorption, right? So I'm going to walk you through that math real quick, but it's the number of sales in 12 months. And then if we just divide that by 12, we got 304 sales per month. And when I took out all of the either pending or active contingent properties, there are only 288 in that price point, in that price band. Is that crazy? And so that turns out to be a whopping 1 month of supply, less than 1 month. Is that crazy? And then when I go up to this other price band, 500 to 700, I'm going to try to click through this math for you real quick. But basically, we're at a 3-month supply. So if you had somebody selling in this price point, moving to this price point, while this is still a seller's market, it's much less of a seller's market than what this price point is. Okay. And even more so, if we go up another price band to that $1 million, 750 to $1 million, you can see it jumps to what's a balanced market. So this is a great conversation if you have with somebody. Think about maybe a younger family or kind of a person in their higher income parts of their career. Now's a better time than ever to move up and buy that dream house, because they could actually sell in what's a strong seller's market and buy in a more balanced market and get the best of both worlds. So think about that. You might just run some numbers for your area and figure out what they are. But if you need help with that, let me know. So lastly, I'm going to blow through this real quick. Your database, you basically have, the point of this was you basically have one of those big refrigerator-sized supercomputers in your pocket. And you need to work on building that database. There's lots of different ways you can build that database. There are some examples there. And that's going to wrap us up for the week. Sorry to run over a little bit, but I hope to see you back on the 19th. We're going to cover pages 157 to 178. Appreciate you being here. If you need anything, please feel free to email me.